The Live the Dream Media Network is proud to host an Arizona legend. His remarkable journey spans college and pro basketball, business excellence, and community leadership at the highest level. Get ready for insightful conversations, expert analysis, and a unique perspective that only one man can deliver. This is the Bob Elliott Show, exclusively on the Live the Dream Media Network.
Welcome to another edition of the Bob Elliott Show. As you know, we like to emphasize leaders in our community, what they do, why they do it, and how they do it. You know, I love the saying, people make the job does not make the person. There are a lot of organizations in our town, great organizations, that provide services for our community. Who are they? What do they do? Are they eligible for that infamous Arizona tax credit? So that's why we're here today, and my guest today is Vanecia Kerr, President and CEO of United Way of Southern Arizona. Vanecia, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here.
You know, this is a great chance for, number one, since you've been here approximately a year, but for people to get to know you. It's ideal for how we do this show. Get to know the person as a person. So let's just rewind that DVD. Let's go back to let us know when you were born. You don't have to say the year, though.
I wasn't going to say the year.
But where you were born, siblings, parents, etc.
Great. No problem. So I am a New Yorker. I was born in Brooklyn, New York, and my family ended up buying a home in Long Island, and that's where I grew up.
Okay.
So I am definitely someone who is from New York, but ended up spending quite a few years in Denver.
Okay. So you said spent years in Denver. You're talking about childhood years or afterwards?
So a little bit about me is being born in Brooklyn and growing up in Long Island. The thing that was always really important in my household was education.
Okay.
And so I'm a first-generation college graduate. And what that means to me is that in my home, education was paramount. My parents told me at a very young age that I was going to college.
Yes.
And even if I didn't see other family members going to college, that my path was going to be different.
Okay.
And so I always knew that I was going to college. And it's so much so that my mom told me when I was in kindergarten. And I remember this because she told me that she was going to 4 graduations.
Okay.
And at the time, you know, you're little, you don't really know, like, I don't know what she's talking about.
What are the 4, right?
Right. She told me, though, that she was going to go to the kindergarten graduation was the first one.
That's
and
right.
she would start to count them down. She said there are 3 more. And the second graduation, at the time, this was years ago, there was an 8th grade graduation.
Okay.
And so she said, well, we're going to have another one in 8th grade. Then high school graduation.
Okay.
And she said, but then it's not over then. At that point, we're going to have there's going to be a college graduation.
Okay.
And that's the 4 graduations that she was planning to go to.
Okay.
And so it was very clear from a very early age that I was going to have 4 graduations and she was going to attend all 4.
Mom laid out the expectations.
She laid out the expectation, and my father was right in line with that.
Right.
He's like, this is what we're doing. And so I knew early on that that's what I wanted to do. And also I knew that I wanted to work in Manhattan. I wanted to have this career, this business career
in the city,
in this big city. Exactly. I mean, I was when I was young, I ended up going to high school in Queens, and so I had to take the Long Island Railroad. So I would commute about an hour to high school each way. And the thing that was interesting about that, though, was that as I was on the train, I'm on the train as a high school student, and I'm surrounded by all of these business people who had briefcases, and they're reading these newspapers, which also indicates how long ago this was. Right? They're reading these newspapers. I'm doing some homework and reading my books, but they they were doing like something where I said, I want to do that one day.
Right.
I want to have a briefcase when I go to work, and I want to be able to like read the newspaper on the way to work. I don't know what they're reading in there and how relevant that is, but I knew that that was something that I wanted to do. Both of my parents were in a blue collar fields.
Okay.
So that wasn't something that I was seeing in my household, but I saw that that was something that I wanted to be when I grew up.
Okay. Now, the blue collar, what did your mom do? What did your dad do?
So my mother worked in a nursing home. She was a nurse's aide.
Okay.
And then my father actually worked for the federal government. He was a postal worker.
All right. Mm-hmm. I'm seeing about the mom being a nurse's aide, and that's service to people.
Yes.
Okay, so I know does that wrap around to why you are doing what you're doing with the United Way? Want to give a service? Okay.
Yes, absolutely. So the thing that you should know about me is that I did end up working in Manhattan. When I finished college, I went to Hampton University, which is HBCU in Virginia, and came back to New York. And at that time, I ended up getting a job in Manhattan in the World Trade Center.
Ooh,
so this also probably starts to indicate how long ago this was. Because I worked in the World Trade Center for a period of time. I was doing sales, and then I ultimately ended up getting a job where I had the opportunity to work for a Fortune 100 company in Midtown Manhattan. And that was the trajectory that ended up changing my life in ways that I could never imagine at that time.
Okay.
And what I mean by that...
Right, I was going to say, how did that... Go ahead, keep going. Okay. No. This is what the show is about, so people get to know Vanecia.
Yes.
And why all of a sudden, after we're going to move forward later on to find out how you end up in Tucson. But no, keep going.
Yeah, so I ended up working at this Fortune 100 company, and I enjoyed the job. The job was great. It actually afforded me the opportunity. I was doing a lot of account management.
Okay.
One of the things that I realized early on that I had a gift of talking, which you probably can already tell.
No, that's an excellent gift.
And I could build relationships with people. So account management and sales was how I started my career.
Okay.
And with this Fortune 100 company, what ended up happening is I moved into account management and had the opportunity to work with clients all across the country. And so you imagine that this little girl that we were talking about earlier, who used to be on the train, wanted to do this, and now I'm meeting with clients all across the country. This job afforded me the opportunity to visit. Now the count is at 46 out of 50 states, and most of that had to do with the role that I had in meeting with clients, particularly in regards to their retirement plan. So I worked in financial services at that time. And ended up moving into leadership roles. So as I started moving into leadership roles, one of the things that I really became more interested in was volunteering and supporting the community.
Okay, there goes service.
So then the service was really starting to come out then. And what you may find interesting is that at one point, when I went to college, I thought that maybe I would want to run for office. And so I was thinking about service in a different kind of way, more along politics. But then once I ended up in the corporate sector, I started to think about service a little bit differently.
Right.
And I thought about it in terms of volunteerism and what that means to volunteer in the community. And so to abbreviate the story a little bit, I ended up in a role where I was responsible for creating and executing the corporate social responsibility program for this Fortune 100 company. And so in that role, that's where you really see how you inspire employees in order for them to support the community. So while I was serving on boards and also encouraging our other leadership to serve on boards, I was also encouraging our employees to volunteer. And interestingly enough, back during that time, I ended up running the United Way campaign.
Okay, now we know where United Way comes in.
So United Way came in because of that. But the reality was back then, almost all the companies were volunteering and supporting United Way.
Yes.
In so
Across
many
the
different
country.
across the
Yes,
country.
yes.
So I heard about United Way many years ago, but that's how my first introduction was actually through this company many years ago.
Now, you talked about having to have that responsibility to incite the employees to want to get involved and volunteer. So what were some of the things that you said to them to try to get them to move in that direction?
Yeah, one of the things that I would share with people is the need. And that's something that people will understand, and it will resonate with them because they know people who are experiencing some kind of need, whether it's the ability to put food on the table, whether it's the ability to keep the lights on in their homes, or if it's something that is different than that, where they see people who are potentially, homeless and don't have a place to sleep. People see it every day, and then sometimes, even within their own families, they're experiencing it. Sometimes it's not directly, sometimes it's through family members.
Right.
So people will understand the challenges that are happening, and the decision becomes whether or not they want to do something about it with the resources that they have.
Right. Earlier, me being a numbers person, you said that you were in 46 of the 50 states. So right away, my mind says, well, what are the 4 states that you haven't been to?
So you know what? The states that I haven't been to, and this is the interesting part, they're really the states in the far northeast.
Yes.
Far
northeast.
Far northeast, are the ones that I haven't been to. And then
like
also,
New Hampshire, Vermont.
Haven't been there.
Maine?
Haven't been there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's 3 right there.
Yeah. And I think it's North Dakota.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, that makes sense. That makes sense. It's funny you say that because one of my pet peeves living in Tucson is to go to a restaurant and they say that they have some live Maine lobster. And I'm saying, man, that poor lobster had to fly a long way.
They came a long ways in order to get over here.
So Bev and I, over the years, have tried to hit all the 50 states. So that far northeast corner, like you're talking about, that quadrant. So we're driving up, I don't know what freeway, maybe it's 95 or something. I don't know if it goes that far up.
Right.
So we stuck our toe into New Hampshire, stuck our toe into Vermont, going our way to Maine, right? So I can get some real Maine lobster.
Right.
I'm a foodie. That's full disclosure.
That's
but
okay.
yeah, no, that's good stuff. So that's how you first heard about United Way.
That is how I first heard about United Way.
And what was your first position with United Way?
So interestingly enough, as I mentioned, like this Fortune 100 company is actually how I got to Denver because I was working with the company in the headquarters in Midtown Manhattan, and then they had started to decide, and this was back during the 90s where a lot of companies were starting to think that it's not a good idea to have the entire presence all in one city. That you really needed to start to diversify your locations across the country. And they wanted to open a Western location. They decided Denver was going to be the place, and I was asked if I would move to Denver. At the time, I was single. I had no children, and I'm a little adventurous, so I said, I think I'll go.
That's right.
Like, why not? I mean, and the reality is, on a personal note, I was a little bit apprehensive only because my father had passed about 2 years prior, and my mom was struggling with. They had been together for so many years, and she was struggling to really kind of move on, and that's a hard thing to do when you've been together for so long.
True.
And I didn't want to leave her.
Right.
And then my mom.
Did you have any siblings?
No, and that was the other thing too. I didn't have siblings, who were living with us, and so I could say, okay, well.
So you felt that responsibility.
I felt a responsibility, and my mom said the most unselfish thing, which was, she said, years ago, I told you that you were going to get your education, you were going to graduate from college, and and then I also went on and got my master's too. And she said, you did all of the things that we wanted you to do. She said, and it wasn't just to have the education, it was because you would have opportunities that we did not have.
True. That's
and
right.
now you have an opportunity, and do not stay here because of me.
Exactly.
She said, "This is why you had these opportunities,
and
so you could have this."
She would love watching you do that too.
Yes,
no question.
And so she said, "If this is a good opportunity, and you think this is good for you, then you should absolutely take advantage of this." And so that gave me permission to move forward. And so that's what I ended up doing is I moved to Denver.
Right.
Interestingly enough, 3 months later, I met my husband.
Okay.
We were married a year later.
Okay.
3 years later, we had our son.
Right.
I was still working at that same company.
Okay.
And it wasn't, I ended up staying there for almost 18 years, working my way up through leadership. And about 15 years ago, I made a decision that actually changed my trajectory even further.
Okay.
And that was I wanted to spend the last half of my career working at nonprofit organizations that I really believed in.
Okay.
I felt that I had achieved a certain level of success in the business community. And it was time for me to do something. I had always been thinking about how do I give back? And a lot of that, you're right, had to do with my mom.
Exactly.
And so I made the decision that it was time to leave the corporate sector. And I didn't go to United Way, though, right away.
Oh.
So
Okay.
here's the thing. 15 years ago, I ended up coming across a nonprofit organization called City Year. And this organization is in probably about 30 locations across the country. And I knew someone at the headquarters in Boston, longtime family friend. He was telling me about the organization. I was very intrigued. And the next thing I know, I'm on the founding committee to help bring City Year to Denver.
Okay.
And so we ended up opening the City Year office in Denver. And when they did that, I was offered a position. And that was my first nonprofit opportunity. Now, the conversation with my husband was very interesting because he was like, you spent your entire career in the corporate sector.
World. Right.
What are you going to do in the nonprofit sector? I said, I'm going to take the same skills that I've developed in the business world, and I'm going to transition those over to the nonprofit sector.
Yes.
And that's what I ended up doing and became the managing director overseeing our marketing, communications, and development.
Okay.
So it wasn't an immediate transition into United Way.
How many years were you at this company?
So I stayed at City Year for a little over 5 years.
Okay.
And then I got a phone call from a friend
Right.
who told me, City Year's doing great.
Right.
And there's another opportunity that I'd like you to look at. They could really use like your type of leadership. And I said, okay, well, I'm willing to have a conversation. Had a conversation. One thing led to another, and then I became the regional executive director of another nonprofit called College Track.
College Track, yes.
And they're based out of Oakland. And so that organization was also a tremendous experience. So I was really excited about that. But then...
still based out of Denver.
Still based out of Denver, responsible for multiple locations of College Track in the Denver area. And then the pandemic hits.
Yes.
And as the pandemic hits, then I start to see the need in a different kind of way.
Okay.
College Track is focused on helping students get to and through college. And what I started to see with the families that we were serving was that our families were needing so much more. Right. And I was referring them to United Way.
Yes.
Because I had experience with United Way, knowing the type of work that they do and that they support people in a wraparound kind of fashion. No matter what it is, they had resources that were available. And even if they weren't doing the direct work, that they knew where to go to ensure that people got what they needed so that they can move forward. And so as a result of that, then I started to think about United Way as potentially another step.
Okay.
And ended up, this is one of those things where you just can't make this up.
Right.
I got an email that showed that United Way in Denver, Mile High United Way, was looking for a chief impact officer.
Okay.
I wasn't necessarily looking for anything at that point, but something about that position kind of pulled me in and said, I need to look at this a little bit more closely.
It was not a coincidence that you got that.
No, it was not.
I'm a firm believer in that. Things happen for a reason.
I absolutely believe that too, Bob. And so I ended up looking at that position, of course, interviewing for it and getting that job as Chief Impact Officer. And that was back in 2020.
Okay.
And I stayed in that role, and that's how I got to United Way, and stayed in that role until I got an email from a recruiter around January or February of last year, and they said they were looking for a president and CEO of the United Way of Tucson in southern Arizona. Wasn't on my radar.
Right.
And I looked at the email, and I was
again,
like,
things do not happen. Things happen for a reason.
That's right. But they said, they had seen my information. Of course, your information's all over the internet, right?
Yes.
They saw my information, and they thought that we should have a conversation.
Okay.
And so I had a conversation, and one thing led to another. Next thing I know, I'm applying for this position. And, of course, ended up getting the position after several interviews.
Right.
And now I'm here in Tucson. I'm very happy to be a Tucsonan, as they say.
Yeah, Tucsonan. Now you're no longer 5,280 feet up, no longer Mile High City.
I'm no longer in the Mile High City.
That's what we do here.
That's right.
So with United Way, what are some of the services that you provide in our community?
So with United Way, we really focus on a couple of different areas. And people know us as being a convener and a collaborator with other nonprofit organizations, but we also have direct service, too, that we provide. It's really around like these specific areas of education, financial wellness, healthy living. These are the kinds of things that we are doing within the community. And so, for example, with financial wellness, I always like to use this example because this is something that most people, they don't actually know that we do this.
Okay.
We're one of the largest providers of free tax preparation here in Arizona. Since, and I know, with you and your role, I'm sure you understand this and what you do on the accounting side.
Right.
But we provided free tax preparation services for over 10,000 people.
Wow.
Since January of this
All
year.
All ages?
Yeah.
Concentrate on seniors? Or
we do see a lot of seniors for sure. But yeah, it's any age of person, but they need to be making less than $89,000 a year.
Okay.
And so we are working with people who are looking for a way to keep more money in their pocket. And when you can bring back $10 million plus back into this community, that's significant.
Yes, it is.
And that's what we're doing through our teams. It's called Volunteer Income Tax Assistance. And that's what we're doing through our Volunteer Income Tax Assistance team, which is small, but we have over 300 volunteers that help us get this work done.
Did you have this same program going on up in Denver?
We did.
Okay.
We did. Actually, it's a program that's not limited to Southern Arizona. It is a national effort. It's in partnership with the IRS.
Right.
So we certainly receive some funding in order to help support that. But the work that's being done is so significant and it is so impactful because when we hear the stories of people who are getting their taxes done and they're saying things to us like, now I'll be able to save for this, or now I'll be able to buy a car so that I can get to work. And you're like, how were you getting to work before?
Yeah.
And like, well, bus, which is sometimes, not as reliable as they want. And then sometimes they have to rely upon friends or family members to get them to work.
Right.
So for them to be able to afford to buy, a used car is a big deal.
Yes,
It's the biggest check they're going to get all year.
Makes me think also, you had that one tax preparation service that both places did. What were other services that were in Denver that you could transfer over here to Tucson to make sure you have some continuity there or consistency? So
here's the interesting thing about United Way is that each United Way is their own 501c3. We're all connected to the United Way Worldwide headquarters, which is in Alexandria. But we have the flexibility to actually focus on the needs within our own community. And we can address those needs in the way that we feel is best for this particular community. So the Volunteer Income Tax Assistance Program is one of the programs that actually is similar in other United Way locations. But the other programs that we have are very unique to the communities that we serve. So here in Tucson, as an example, we also have My Summer Library, which is a program that we offer to young children, elementary school primarily. It's that early learning to make sure that children have books at home. You would not believe how many children do not have books at home. And so you end up experiencing learning loss. When school is out,
yes, those 3 months.
Those 3 months are critical.
Yes, they are.
That they don't end up falling backwards. And so you want to make sure that reading is something that can continue to happen by children having books at home.
Yes.
And so My Summer Library provides for that by making sure that children have 12 books that they can take home each summer.
Okay.
And so we work with hundreds of students through the schools here.
Right.
To make sure that at the end of the school year, they can take these books home with them. It's through donations from people in the community that allows us to do that work that directly services people within our community. And so that's another example.
Do you do any programs with these kids in a physical location of a library? Because, I mean, summertime for us is hot.
Yeah.
So it's a chance for them maybe to come to a library, be indoors. Do they have to, books that they read, do they have to do like a report on them so you know that they're understanding and comprehending what's in the book? Or
So we work very closely with the teachers.
Okay.
And so the teachers actually help us a lot in making sure that this program is effective. Because one of the things that we also know here in the Tucson area is that reading is something that we have to put more of an emphasis on.
Yes, yes.
When you look at the data is telling us that unfortunately in too many schools and in too many school districts, because we have quite a few here in the Tucson and Southern Arizona area, too many children are not reading by third grade.
Yes.
And what we know is that reading by third grade is a very critical milestone.
Yes, it is.
And at that point, they need to be making that shift from learning to read to reading to learn. That's why we have My Summer Library, to put that emphasis back on reading.
Okay.
Because even with math, after third grade, you start to see, especially when you get into middle school, that the problems are no longer just numerical. They're word problems.
Right.
And if you don't understand how to comprehend
the words in the problem, how are you going to get to the answer?
You can't.
Yes.
And so it's a very critical issue that we know needs to happen that leads to a ripple effect that we don't want to see or continue to see in the Tucson and Southern Arizona community. We have to ensure that children are reading by third grade. So we have a program called Cradle to Career that's really focused on supporting the school districts, the teachers, and the schools to make sure that students are reading by third grade. And so that's another initiative that we have where we're measuring our success along the way to ensure that we're not just putting books in their hands, but we're also partnering with teachers to ensure that this is leading to more students reading by the time they're in third grade.
What would be the top 3 services that you provide to Southern Arizona from the United Way?
So I would say...
Like, what's the most provided service to the second to the third?
Well, certainly, I don't know that I try. This is like when you have like children, and you don't want to pick. Like this is the best child, or this is the second best, or the third. We don't want to do that, right?
No, we're not supposed to do that.
But what I will tell you in terms of need and how we're addressing them, early childhood education is definitely a priority for us.
Okay, and I can hear that too. And
it's
critical.
Definitely a priority.
Yes.
It's definitely an issue because we do have some areas in our town where we have 30 to 40% of the students are reading by third grade. Okay. That means that 60 to 70% are not reading.
That's right.
So it's definitely a critical issue. And so early childhood education is certainly one of the things that's the top priority for us. as an organization. Financial wellness, as I mentioned, we want to make sure that people are having more money coming back to them through our volunteer income tax assistance program. So that's critical. And then the other thing that I would say that we do really, really well is convening and collaborating with our other nonprofit partners as well as leaders throughout the community. And that becomes really critical because it's not just about the program and what that program is doing. It's whether or not we're making a real impact in the community, and it can't be just United Way.
Right.
It has to be like the work that we're doing collectively with other organizations and how we measure that success. So we're actually about to launch what I'm calling Vision 2030. Okay. And with Vision 2030, it's about where do we want to be both as a community and as an organization in the next 4 years.
Yes.
How do we deepen our impact? How do we ensure that we're doing the right things at the right time to support the people in our community? And so we'll be looking at what are the needs, but also how are we uniquely positioned to address those needs? And so it will be through early childhood education. It will be through the other work that we're doing in terms of financial wellness. It'll be through the various focus areas that we have that we're looking at how do we create goals that are bold. Right. Because we want to step out and say, like, this is something that we really want to embrace and partner with the community to ensure that the work that we're doing is bold enough to help support the community in a unique way.
Well, hopefully now our viewers, number one, now know about Vanecia Kerr, who she is and what she's about, why she has this passion for United Way, and two, the different services that United Way provides for us in our community. So thank you so much for being my guest on this show. It's been enlightening, which is what we like. We like to educate. We love that, and entertain.
Thank you so much. If I could just say that if you want more information about United Way, go to unitedwaytucson.org.
Yes.
And you can get more information on all the things that we're doing, how you can volunteer to support the work that we're doing. And if you want to contribute, we're always accepting donations.
All nonprofits, like our museum. I always love volunteer time and volunteer money.
That's right.
That's good. Well, thank you. And then join us next Friday at 9 a.m., May 15th, for the next Bob Elliott Show. It's going to be a little different. I have Father John Paul Forte of the U of A Newman Center as they're celebrating their 100th year of being in this community. And we'll talk about different things that are going on at the Newman Center. So thank you very much. Stay positive and be well.